know, things go around sometimes and you just wonder why. I picked up a songbook in the back pew and was singing tenor with Mike, and I happened to find a card in there and it was addressed to me from Linda. It's a small, small world. Brother James, we're so happy you and your family are here today. We've missed you. We've missed you a lot. I know everybody and their brother's been asking me all kinds of questions, so when you're ready, you can discuss things with us. My lesson today is coming from the Sermon on the Mount. I want to tell you, if you haven't learned already in your studies, that Jesus is very systematic in his lessons. If you look at the parables, they were common, average, run-of-the-mill things that people dealt with on a daily basis. And they were expressed in such a manner that everybody could understand, even of a lowly stature. And oftentimes when he spoke a parable, he would speak 3 of them so you could get the point. So if you tell your children 3 times to do something, usually by the 3rd time, they either do it or run in shame. Jesus would always give a simple lesson. And following that simple lesson, he would give you a practical application of what he's just told you. And then he would tell you how to outwork that problem. How to outwork what I just told you. How to do and apply it to your life. Now, Jesus was before a great multitude when he gave this Sermon on the Mount. And he began to try to tell them, I'm here to establish a kingdom. But my kingdom is not like anything you've ever seen, will ever see, or know about, or read about. It's completely different. And I want you to understand that the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the scribes, men who would oftentimes record and copy all books of the Pentateuch, all 5 of them, by hand, to the point you didn't know when there's a different word in someone else's reading that wasn't there. They were called the doctors of the law. A doctor and a physician are 2 different things. Doctorate, as we think of professors. They were the doctors of the law, and they got it wrong. So when Jesus came, they were not even looking for him. They weren't looking for his kingdom. And don't you know there are churches today that don't even imagine or believe that the kingdom is on earth with us now, and it's called the church. They think that when Jesus comes again, he's going to bring the kingdom down to earth. We've been here all along, waiting on the rest of them to catch up. So he began to tell these people, it's different than anything you know about. How is it different? Look at the 5th chapter, if you will, Matthew, real quick. He said, it's so different. I'm going to tell you how to get into this kingdom. These are the qualities that you need to have. These are the qualities I'm looking for. Verse 3, poor in spirit. Verse 4, mourn. Verse 6, hunger and thirst after righteousness. Verse 7, merciful. Verse 8, pure in heart. And verse 9, peacemakers. Then finally he says in verse 10, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So here's his kingdom, I'm going to establish it. Here are the qualities I'm looking for, and you need to obtain to be in that kingdom. He's not looking for people who are wealthy and have no problems. He's not looking for people who are so self-righteous that they don't consider themselves to have a problem. If they did, they'd never tell you. Pride. He's looking for people who are humble. I'm humbled every day of my life because I realize just how great God is. Not just the great and wonderful things like the universe, but the small things that he's made that we overlook and forget to enjoy. And there's a computer in that room in there that I think is bewitched or bedeviled or what have you. And every once in a while someone will shut it off and a little black screen comes up and says this is Windows, and it types in my name but it's not my login, and I can get that thing to come on whatsoever. And Mike just walks over and pushes the enter button rather than putting a log on and it comes up. So I'm humbled every day of my life. I went out and had the internet put on my telephone so I could retrieve my emails. And it didn't have a bit of problem, but for some reason that thing in the office scares me. And so I'm humbled. Maybe I'm running too fast into the 21st century. I don't know. I still don't have to go outside and turn my antenna, or rabbit ears. So he goes on into verses chapter 6, the last part of verses chapter 5, the first part of chapter 7. He says, I've shown you what kind of people I want in my kingdom. I've showed you what kind of qualities you have to be in my kingdom. And then he goes on to help them, the practical part of his lessons. He gave the simple lesson, they all understood, now the practical part. He taught them how to pray, he taught them how to give, and he taught them how to fast. Not like the publicans and sinners, not like those people you see over in the corner, the doctors of the law. This is how you ought to do it. He even gave a model of a prayer, so they would understand practical outreach of what he's teaching, so that they would understand. And then he goes on further, and he laid down all the principles in chapters 5, 6, and 7. And he tries to work them out in great detail so that they would understand that when they're picked on, to just ignore it, that when they're persecuted for righteousness' sake, for being right, not for something they've done wrong, to go ahead and accept it, to treat other people like you would want them to treat yourself, practical application. And then it gets to the good part. Call for action. Here's the people I want. My kingdom is different than anything you know. Here's a practical way of dealing with what I've just told you in chapter 5. Now what are you going to do about it? Now what are you going to do about it? Turn to chapter 7. Those of you who work in a factory, you know when it's time to start your shift, there's a big old gate you go through, and there's a bunch of people all hoarding through it. God forbid they should put a little turnstile over there where only one person can go through at a time. You got 1,000 people coming on duty. Who wants to wait? You imagine Black Friday, all these different stores, Walmart and what have you, at 5 o'clock in the morning, have a little turnstile and everybody has to go through one at a time. Give you a number they did this year so people wouldn't walk all over and kill another person just like stampeding. I've shown you, I've taught you, now I've showed you how to apply it, now what are you going to do about it? Verse 13. Enter in by the narrow gate. For wide is the gate and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. For those of you who are still too young and don't understand, we enter this life through a narrow passage. Don't care if you've had 12 kids, it's still a narrow passage. And Jesus says, if you want to enter into my kingdom, it's a narrow passage. You have to go in by the hard place, the small gate, the little way, the hard way. Those people over there using the wide gate are doing it wrong. I don't want you to be like everybody else. I want you to stand out and be unique. Not absorb everybody else and become a community church. You're my church. You're my kingdom, he says. So look for the narrow gate. You know why people don't go into the narrow gate? It's difficult. It's difficult. If I told you I want you to take a trip down to Virginia, and I want you to go through the mountains of West Virginia and part of Kentucky and what have you to get there, and it's a windy little 2-lane road, and there's semis going over the speed limit. There's graveyards at the bottom of the hills when you come to a stop sign because people didn't make it. Or I want you to take the turnpike over here to a city over in Pennsylvania and turn right and go down by a 6-lane highway all the way down. Which way are you going to go? I'm going to take the easy way. Everybody wants to be in the easy way. Everybody wants to be like everybody else. Everybody wants to be like Mike. I don't want to stand out. So they don't even look for the narrow path. They don't even look for that narrow gate. And if you understand what he's telling you, the gate is narrow, the path is narrow, it doesn't get any better. There's a movie or a program on TV, I think it's on the History Channel, Channel 29, if you guys like that, about people driving those roads in Peru or wherever it is. And if you get off just a little bit too far to one edge, you're over the hill and gone. Not me. If it's not on 6-lane highway, you're